Hare Krishna, everyone. Sorry, we got some disturbances. So we'll start right back at the text 24.
You can read the verse again. Third time.
This is pure nectar, so
Krishna's
we can read it over and over.
Can we read it all together?
But the whole verse.
Yeah, why
Whole
not?
purport.
Yeah,
Oh, just verse.
you can repeat in your house if you are listening. Although the members of the Panchatattva plundered the storehouse of love of Godhead and ate and distributed its contents, there was no scarcity. For this wonderful storehouse is so complete that as the love is distributed, the supply increases hundreds of times. How many times?
Hundreds.
Yeah.
Hundreds, man.
Purport. A pseudo-incarnation of Krishna once told his disciple that he had emptied himself by giving him all knowledge and was thus spiritually bankrupt. Such bluffers speak in this way to cheat the public, but actual spiritual consciousness is so perfect that the more it is distributed, the more it increases. Bankruptcy is a term that applies in the material world, but the storehouse of love of Godhead in the spiritual world can never be depleted. Krishna is providing for millions and trillions of living entities by supplying all their necessities. And even if all the innumerable living entities wanted to become Krishna conscious, there will be no scarcity of love of Godhead. Nor will there be insufficiency in providing for their maintenance. Our Krishna consciousness movement was started single-handedly, and no one provided for livelihood. But at present we are spending hundreds and thousands of dollars all over the world, and the movement is increasing more and more. Thus, there is no question of scarcity. Although jealous persons may be envious, if we stick to our principles and follow in the footsteps of the Panchatattva, this movement will go on unchecked by imitation swamis, sannyasis, religionists, philosophers, or scientists, for it is transcendental to all material considerations. Therefore, those who propagate the Krishna consciousness movement should not be afraid of such rascals and fools. This is really important. Not the last sentence, but before the last, the end of the last sentence. For it is transcendental to all material considerations. This movement, is transcendental. Sometimes we forget that. It's transcendental. Text 25. The flood of love of Godhead swelled in all directions, and thus young men, old men, women, and children were all immersed in that inundation. Purport. When the contents of the storehouse of love of Godhead is thus distributed, there is a powerful inundation that covers the entire land. In Sridham Mayapur, there is sometimes a great flood after the rainy season. This is an indication that from the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, the inundation of love of Godhead should be spread all over the world. For this will help everyone, including old men, young men, women, and children. The Krishna consciousness movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so powerful that it can inundate the entire world and interest all classes of men in the subject of love of Godhead.
Text 26. The Krishna consciousness movement will inundate the entire world and drown everyone, whether one be a gentleman, a rogue, or even lame, invalid, or blind. Purport. Here again, it may be emphasized that although jealous rascals protest that Europeans and Americans cannot be given the sacred thread or sannyas. There is no need even to consider whether one is a gentleman or a rogue, because this is a spiritual movement which is not concerned with the external body of skin and bones. Because it is being properly conducted under the guidance of the Pancha Tattva, strictly following the regulative principles, it has nothing to do with external impediments. When the 5 members of the Pancha Tattva saw the entire world drowned in love of Godhead, and the seed of material enjoyment in the living entities completely destroyed, they all became exceedingly happy. Purport. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasya that since the living entities all belong to the marginal potency of the Lord, each and every living entity has a natural tendency to become Krishna conscious, although at the same time the seed of material enjoyment is undoubtedly within him. The seed of material enjoyment, watered by the course of material nature, fructifies to become a tree of material entanglement that endows the living entity with all kinds of material enjoyment. To enjoy such material facilities is to be afflicted with the 3 material miseries. However, when by nature's law there is a flood, the seeds within the earth become inactive. Similarly, as the inundation of love of Godhead spreads all over the world, the seeds of material enjoyment become impotent. Thus, the more the Krishna consciousness movement spreads, the more the desire for material enjoyment decreases. The seed of material enjoyment automatically becomes impotent with the increase of the Krishna consciousness movement. Instead of being envious that Krishna consciousness is spreading all over the world, by the grace of Lord Chaitanya, those who are jealous should be happy, as indicated here by the words Padam Ulasa. But because they are Kanishta Adhikaris or Prakata Bhaktas, materialistic devotees who are not advanced in spiritual knowledge, they are envious instead of happy, and they try to find faults in the Krishna consciousness movement. Yet, Srimad Prabodhananda Saraswati writes in his Chaitanya Caritamrita that when influenced by Lord Chaitanya's Krishna consciousness movement, materialists become averse to talking about their wives and children. Supposedly, land scholars give up their tedious studies of Vedic literature. Yogis give up their impractical practices of mystic yoga. Ascetics give up their austere activities of penance and austerity, and sannyasis give up their study of Sankhya philosophy. Thus, they are all attracted by the bhakti yoga practices of Lord Chaitanya and cannot relish a mellow superior to that of Krishna consciousness. Text 28. The more the 5 members of the Pancha Tattva cause the rains of love of Godhead to fall, the more the inundation increases and spreads all over the world. Purport. The Krishna consciousness movement is not stereotyped or stagnant. It will spread all over the world, in spite of all objections by fools and rascals that European and American malechas cannot be accepted as brahmanas or sannyasis. Here it is indicated that this process will spread and inundate the entire world with Krishna consciousness. Text 29:30. The impersonalist, fruitive workers, false logicians, blasphemers, non-devotees, and lowest among the student community are very expert in avoiding the Krishna consciousness movement. And therefore, the inundation of Krishna consciousness cannot touch them. Purpose. Like Mayavadi philosophers in the past, such as Prakashananda Saraswati of Benares, modern impersonalists are not interested in Lord Chaitanya's Krishna consciousness movement. They do not know the value of this material world. They consider it false and cannot understand how the Krishna consciousness movement can utilize it. They are so absorbed in impersonal thought that they take it for granted that all spiritual variety is material. Because they do not know anything beyond their misconception of the Brahma Jyoti, they cannot understand that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is spiritual, and therefore beyond the conception of material illusion. Whenever Krishna incarnates personally or as a devotee, these Mayavadi philosophers accept him as an ordinary human being. This is condemned in the Bhagavad Gita 9.11. Avajananti mamuda manushim tanum ashritam param bhavam ajananto mam maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. There are also other unscrupulous persons who exploit the Lord's appearance by posing as incarnations to cheat the innocent public. An incarnation of God should pass the tests of the statements of the Shastras and also perform uncommon activities. One should not accept a rascal as an incarnation of God, but should test his ability to act as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For example, Krishna taught Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna also accepted him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But for our understanding, Arjuna requested the Lord to manifest his universal form, thus testing whether he was actually the Supreme Lord. Similarly, one must test the so-called incarnation of Godhead according to the standard criteria. To avoid being misled by an exhibition of mystic powers, it is best to examine a so-called incarnation of God in the light of the statements of the Shastras. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described in the Shastras as an incarnation of Krishna. Therefore, if one wants to imitate Lord Chaitanya and claim to be an incarnation, he must show evidence from the Shastras about his appearance to substantiate his claim.
(31 and 32). Seeing that the Mayavadis and others were fleeing, Lord Chaitanya thought, I wanted everyone to be immersed in this inundation of love of Godhead, but some of them have escaped. Therefore, I shall devise a trick to drown them also. Purport. Here is an important point. It's an important point. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to invent a way to capture the Mayavadis and others who did not take interest in the Krishna consciousness movement. This is a symptom of an acharya. This is a symptom of an acharya. An acharya who comes for the service of the Lord cannot be expected to conform to a stereotype, for he must find the ways and means by which Krishna consciousness may be spread. sometimes jealous, how you say? Jealous.
Jealous.
Sometimes jealous persons criticize the Krishna consciousness movement because it engages equally both boys and girls in distributing love of Godhead. Not knowing that boys and girls in countries like Europe and America mix very freely, these fools and rascals criticize the boys and girls in Krishna consciousness for intermingling. Sorry. But these rascals should consider that one cannot suddenly change a community's social customs. However, since both the boys and the girls are being trained to become preachers, those girls are not ordinary girls, but are as good as their brothers who are preaching Krishna consciousness. Therefore, to engage both boys and girls in fully transcendental activities is a policy intended to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. These jealous fools who criticize the intermingling of boys and girls will simply have to be satisfied with their own foolishness because they cannot think of how to spread Krishna consciousness. Whoa, this is really heavy. I'll start again. These jealous fools who criticize the intermingling of boys and girls will simply have to be satisfied with their own foolishness because they cannot think of how to spread Krishna consciousness by adopting ways and means that are favorable for this purpose. Their stereotyped methods will never help spread Krishna consciousness. Therefore, what we are doing is perfect by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for it is he who proposed to invent a way to capture those who strayed from Krishna consciousness. Very nice purport. Text 33. Thus, the Lord accepted the sannyas order of life after full consideration. Purport. There was no need for Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to accept sannyas, for he is God himself, and therefore has nothing to do with the material body. He has nothing to do with the material bodily concept of life. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not identify himself with any of the 8 varnas and ashrams, namely Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas. He identified himself as the Supreme Spirit. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or for that matter any pure devotee, never identifies with these social and spiritual divisions of life, for a devotee is always transcendental to these different gradations of society. Nevertheless, Lord Chaitanya decided to accept sannyas on the grounds that when he became a sannyasi, everyone will show him respect and in that way be favored. Although there was actually no need for him to accept sannyas, he did so for the benefit of those who might think him an ordinary human being. The main purpose of his accepting sannyas was to deliver the Mayavadi sannyasis. This will be evident later in this chapter. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur has explained the term Mayavadi as follows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental to the material conception of life. A Mayavadi is one who considers the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna to be made of Maya, and who also considers the abode of the Lord and the process of approaching him, devotional service, to be Maya. The Mayavadi considers all the paraphernalia of devotional service to be Maya. Maya refers to material existence, which is characterized by the reactions of fruitive activities. Mayavadis consider devotional Mayavadis consider devotional service to be among such fruitive activities. According to them, when Bhagavat devotees are purified by philosophical speculation, they will come to the real point of liberation. Those who speculate in this way regarding devotional service are called kutarkikas, false logicians, and those who consider devotional service to be fruitive activity are called karmanishtas. Those who criticize devotional service are called nindakas, blasphemers. Similarly, non-devotees who consider devotional activities to be material are called pashandis, and scholars with a similar viewpoint are called adama paduyas. The kutarkikas, nindakas, pashandis, and adama paduyas all avoided the benefit of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement of developing love of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt compassion for them, and it is for this reason that he decided to accept the sannyas order, for by seeing him as a sannyasi, they will offer him respect. The sannyas order is still respected in India. Indeed, the very dress of a sannyasi still commands respect from the Indian public. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas to facilitate preaching his devotional cult, although otherwise he had no need to accept the fourth order of spiritual life. Srila Prabhupada ki? Okay, we'll stop the reading here. And if anyone got any reflection, question, comments, it's happy to.
Can I just share a few things from Bhagavad Gita? That's so nice. Because in the Bhagavad Gita, I mean, here we say that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is trying to trick all the Mayavadis, you know, because they're all running away. And then he's thinking of, you know, how to basically, how can I give them Krishna consciousness? But then he goes against the Bhagavad Gita, because Krishna says in text 18, chapter 18, text
69.
Text 67, it says, this confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not hostile or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. Then after it says, for one who explains the supreme secrets to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So here Krishna is explaining that, you know, that we should not explain this knowledge, you know, to those who are not austere, those who are not devoted, basically anyone who is inimical to Krishna. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually showing what a devotee really is. And Srila Prabhupada explained that a devotee is actually more merciful than Krishna. And there's a class that...
Because he follows the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What was the verse that you read? Like that explain this.
The storehouse, when they broke the sea.
Just the one before 31, 32,
He
no?
explained that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is more always Krishna himself. He is
Yes. Yeah, it was a bit before. Yeah, I remember. It was a beginning, no? Let's start back from the beginning.
Yeah, say the purport of the text 2021. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is called Maha Vadanya because although he's Krishna himself, he's more favorably disposed to the for the soul than Krishna. Therefore, the devotee
Mm-hmm.
simply following the footsteps.
Follow. That's it. Yeah.
Chaitanya Prabhu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nice.
Because he's a devotee.
Mm.
He plays the role of a devotee.
The perfect devotee.
Yeah, perfect devotee.
Mm. So we're on the line, so we follow his example, and
Yeah.
we go out, we preach, we share the videos on Facebooks,
Yeah.
we take part in hearing, glorifying him together.
Yeah.
Very nice.
ISKCON is an extension of Lord Chaitanya Prabhu's
Tree.
mission or party.
Hopefully everyone had Rupanuga Prabhu. So you just said that ISKCON is an extension of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Mission party.
Mm-hmm.
Branch.
So, mm.
It's good. There is one verse after I will say that in Adi Lila that actually the Krishna consciousness ISKCON,
Mm.
you know, is you're gonna describe about the tree
Mm.
Yeah.
and that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is he's a gardener, but he is also the tree, and that ISKCON is part of this tree.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, the part are unlimited.
Mm. So Prabhupada in the lecture in New Vrindavan in 1975 on the Bhagavad Gita 9.1, it says Krishna is very strict, but the devotees are very lenient. Krishna doesn't want to even speak with demons, but the devotees are so kind. They go to the demons and pray, kindly hear about Krishna. Krishna says, don't speak this Bhagavad Gita to the non-devotees, because non-devotees will not accept. Krishna says, Savadamam parityaja mam ekam saranam vraja. Who will accept unless he is a devotee? The Mayavadi, Karmi, Jnani or Yogi cannot accept. They are envious. I am Krishna. I am God. Why should I surrender to Krishna? Why should I accept Krishna as God? This is the position of the Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami. They cannot understand the science of Krishna. They cannot understand. Because Krishna does not disclose himself to the non-devotees. They cannot understand because Krishna does not disclose himself to the non-devotees.
Mm-hmm.
But the devotees are so merciful. They go to the abhakta. So one who is not a bhakta. Transgressing the order of Krishna because they are so merciful. Alright, Krishna has rejected them. Let me try. This is the position of a bhakta. They are totally unenvious of God. Srila Prabhupada ki. And then if you look at the verse about controlling the mind, about purifying your mind, it says, and satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. So, satisfaction, simplicity, self-control, gravity, and purification of one's existence. Yeah. Purport. To make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. It should be so trained that it can be always thinking of doing good for others. It should be so trained that it can be
always thinking of doing good for others.
The best training for the mind is gravity in thought. One should not deviate from Krishna consciousness and must always avoid sense gratification. To purify one's nature is to become Krishna conscious. Satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from thoughts of sense enjoyment. The more we think of sense enjoyment, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. In the present age, we unnecessarily engage the mind in so many different ways for sense gratification, and so there is no possibility of the mind's becoming satisfied. The best course is to divert the mind to the Vedic literature, which is full of satisfying stories, as in the Puranas and the Mahabharata. One can take advantage of this knowledge and thus become purified. The mind should be devoid of duplicity and one should think of the welfare of all. Silence means that one is always thinking of self-realization. The person in Krishna consciousness observes perfect silence in distance. Control of the mind means detaching the mind from sense enjoyment. One should be straightforward in his dealings and thereby purify his existence. All these qualities together constitute austerity in mental activities. Srila Prabhupada ki.
This is like a Gita.
Yeah. This is 17.16 divisions of faith. Krishna gives the different austerity of speech, austerity of the body, and austerity of the mind. So it's all connected together.
Anything from the outside world?
Nothing from the outside world, no.
Anything from the audience? Rupanuga? Anything that's stuck in your mind you want to reflect?
I'm stuck in your heart. You know?
It's powerful.
Share with us.
Yeah, no, it's actually one. Just with the translation of this Bhajan by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this stuck in my mind actually. I just wanted to read one small, wanted to share one small section of this translation. Yeah, just give me a. What was it? Yeah, we sing this often in Prem Lounge.
Yeah, but it was nice to do it again.
Yeah, it's powerful.
At the beginning I wanted to read it and then I said, okay, let's chant it all together. It's more...
Nama Sankirtan Das Brahmachari. He recommends that we sing Sad Goswami Astakam every day, all Brahmacharis together. He says this is a key to one of the keys to staying Brahmachari. Nama Sankirtan Das Brahmachari. Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. What stuck is just this one translation. Only if I become attached to the instructions given by the 6 Goswamis, headed by Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami, will it be possible for me to understand the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna. By attachment to the devotional service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one immediately comes to the ecstatic position. When he develops his love for Nityananda Prabhu, who is the spiritual master, he is freed from all attachment to the material world, and at that time he becomes eligible to understand the Lord's pastimes in Vrindavan. In that connection, when one develops his love for the 6 Goswamis, he can understand the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. These are different stages of a pure devotee's promotion to conjugal love in the service of Radha and Krishna in an intimate relationship with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah. It's very powerful, yeah. I mean, I've not got much understanding of it. Yeah. I was this point where it said, when he develops his love for Nityananda Prabhu, he is free from all attachment to the material world. This made me think about spiritual master, When you develop that attachment, then you can actually drop the attachment to material, and you can yeah, that's basically it.
About the spiritual master, where is it? Oh, in the Svetashvata Upanishad, it says, only unto those great souls who simultaneously have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. So, not only do we need faith in Krishna, in the Lord, but also in the parampara, the spiritual master, and obviously all, the line of disciplic succession. So when it's explaining about developing attachment, for Sanatana and Rupa Goswami, that also we need to develop that eagerness and at least understanding who they are, because otherwise how are we going to develop faith if we don't know who Srila Prabhupada is? And we just read during our afternoon reading that Prabhupada, the first room he was offered when he was on his mission to write the Srimad Bhagavatam was in Radha Damodar temple. And he accepted it, he saw it as auspicious, although the rooms, they were in very bad conditions. But he saw beyond that, and he saw that, this is where Rupa and Sanatan Goswami actually reside. Huh? Sorry? Jiva Goswami also. Yeah, so he saw that, and then he explained that he got a lot of inspiration, just meditation and feeling, so like being there in that spot, and his time there gave him the whole, inspiration to then bring Krishna consciousness to the West. So I was just meditating on this, thinking that we are not in the holy place, we are not there, but if we just try to absorb and understand more about who Prabhupada is and connect to him and appreciate him, then we can bring in more and more his presence close to us. And by that, through the spiritual master, through our appreciation for him, we can have access to the knowledge, and then the knowledge becomes more and more revealed. But our tendency usually in the West is we jump over the teacher and we just try to get the knowledge. So definitely for me it's something I have to work on, being more personal.
Actually, Prabhupada explained that actually Rupa Goswami appeared in front of him to bless him. There is this famous picture, famous paint drawing.
Famous paint?
Yeah, you see, Srila Prabhupada is seated in his room in Damodara temple, and Rupa Goswami is there in front of him, all effulgent. So actually, Prabhupada said that yes, Rupa Goswami appeared, and he gave his blessing to Srila Prabhupada. Like that, so it's very powerful.
Nice.
Very powerful.
Thank you for sharing. Okay.
Oh, Sham, I remember that's something to share. Zoom in.
I just remembered in this quote, where Prabhupada quoted this bhajana, and the last two lines that he quoted, he also quoted in the preface to the Nectar of Instruction. So can I just read a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Prabhupada says, the Krishna consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas or Bengali Vaishnavas are mostly followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of whom the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan are direct disciples. Therefore Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung Rupa Raghunatha Padi Hai Bhiyakuti Kabe Hama Bhujaba Se Yugala Priyuti. When I am eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis to loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in order to bestow upon human society the benediction of the science of Krishna. The most exalted of all the activities of Lord Krishna are his pastimes of conjugal love with the gopis. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the mood of Srimati Radharani, the best of the gopis. Therefore, to understand the mission of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and follow in his footsteps, one must very seriously follow in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis, Sri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Raghunath. Especially this part, when I'm eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis. Sham Kishore, something you like to point out a lot about this eagerness to hear. And so the other day you speaking about What is it? These two qualifications
It says
to be.
eagerness. Okay, that's the last thing. Then we're gonna have to. It says that the eagerness to hear is the first qualification to go back to the kingdom of God. So we are practicing how to hear by being together every day, daily, and we are practicing the eagerness to hear. And actually tomorrow, during our Srimad Bhagavatam reading at 1:15, we will see how this hearing, the result of it, how we are actually watering the seed, and then what happens as the seed grows, and then it goes through all the material and goes to spiritual world. So there's a whole explanation of what happens through this hearing, daily hearing, that we become more and more attached to Krishna, and this is the mean, and this is the goal also to attain it. So tomorrow we go into that more. Okay, so I think we'll stop here. So thank you very much, everybody, for being with us today and hearing with us. So yeah, if you want the CC in your home, we can take care of it.
Special price.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
So
want me today, special price.
so please feel free. If you don't have at home, it's very important. No different from deities. So you have deities at home. He's staying with us anyway. Did you have something? I had something, but yeah, you can speak. 'Cause I forgot.
Well, see you tomorrow, same place, same time, 5:30, same body.
Also join us if you can. Srimad Bhagavatam reading at 1:15 tomorrow. 1:15 until 2. We are reading the first canto. No.
Yeah, it's really ecstatic as well. Really same kind of feeling. Okay.
And please, and also make sure you share this video and like it, so the love of Godhead increases. The more we share, the more we receive. Right? That's what we have there.
Right.
It will increase how many times?
Hundreds.
Hundreds of times. There you go.
Hundreds now.
Okay. Vanchakarpatulubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Gora Bhakta Vrinda ki Srila Prabhupada ki Grantara Shri Chaitanya Caritamrita ki Nitai Gaura Premanande Panchatattva ki
Jai Panchatattva.